अर्थनीति विज्ञान पर घोषणा होची नोबेल वर्ष 2023 ए सम्मानजनक पुरस्कार काहाकु प्रदान करा जिवो ता पर समस्त नजर अछि। सिधासलख देखिबा स्वीडन रो नोबेल फाउंडेशन पक्षरु किभଳି पुरस्कार संपर्क सूचना दिया जाउछि।
Och den här presskonferensen vi ska presentera Sveriges riksbankspris i ekonomisk vetenskap till Alfred Nobels minne för 2023. Welcome to the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences and this press conference where we will present Sveriges Riksbanks Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel for 2023. We will keep to our tradition and begin in Swedish and then continue the presentation in English. You are of course welcome to ask questions later on in either language. Jag heter Hans Ellegren och jag är ständig sekreterare här på Kungliga Vetenskapsakademin. Till höger om mig sitter professor Jakob Svensson, ordförande i kommittén för Sveriges Riksbankspris i ekonomisk vetenskap till Alfred Nobels minne. Och till vänster om mig professor Randi Hjalmarsson, ledamot i priskommittén och sakkunnig i ämnet. My name is Hans Ellegren. I'm the Secretary General of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. And to my right is Professor Jakob Svensson, Chair of the Committee for Sveriges Riksbanks Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel. And to my left, Professor Randi Hjalmarsson, member of the committee and an expert in the field. Årets pris handlar om kvinnor på arbetsmarknaden. This year's prize is about women in the labor market. Kungliga Vetenskapsakademin har beslutat utdela Sveriges Riksbankspris i ekonomisk vetenskap till Alfred Nobels minne för 2023 till professor Claudia Goldin, Harvard University, USA, för att ha förbättrat vår förståelse av kvinnors arbetsmarknadsutfall. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has decided to award Sveriges Riksbanks Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel 2023 to Professor Claudia Goldin, Harvard University, USA, for having advanced our understanding of women's labor market outcomes. Professor Jakob Svensson will now give us a short summary. Please.
Thank you. Over the last half a century, most high-income countries have witnessed a spectacular increase in women's labor market participation. The gender gap in earnings has also fallen sharply, at least since the 1980s. Still, even in countries considered the most equal, where women are more educated than men, women are less likely to work, and when they work, they earn less than men. Globally, but also historically, in high-income countries, women are and have been vastly underrepresented in the labor market. This year's laureate has provided the first comprehensive account of women's earnings and labor market outcomes through the centuries. Her research reveals new patterns, identifies causes of change, but also speaks to the main sources of the remaining gender gaps. Understanding women's role in the labor market is important for society, not the least because if women do not have the same opportunity as men, or they participate on unequal terms, labor, skills, and talent go wasted. Thanks to Professor Goldin's groundbreaking research, we know much more about the underlying factors driving women's labor market outcomes, and which barriers may need to be addressed in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Svensson. Professor Hjalmarsson, are you ready to give us a more detailed presentation?
Absolutely.
Yeah, please.
There are many differences in the labor market outcomes between men and women. Globally, about 50% of women participate in the labor market, compared to 80% of men. There's a gender gap of 30 percentage points. But even when women work, their outcomes are different. In OECD countries today, women earn, on average, about 13% less. And women are less likely to reach the top of the career ladder, hitting the so-called glass ceiling. It is quite a puzzle why these gender gaps still exist today, even though in many countries, women have overtaken men in educational attainment, graduating both high school and university at higher rates. Even though in many countries, policies like equal pay legislation have put in place to combat discrimination. The answer to this puzzle is important to maximize global prosperity. This map shows the gender gap in labor market participation rates in countries around the world. Darker shaded countries, red, have large participation gaps. Lighter yellow shaded countries have small gaps. We can see that there is a gender gap in labor market participation in all countries, but we can also see that this gap is much smaller in more developed high-income countries. In fact, this gap is much smaller today than it was 50 or 100 years ago. So one possible conclusion is that gender gaps will close with economic growth and development. But Claudia Goldin has discovered that this conclusion is not true, that economic growth does not always improve female labor market outcomes. In fact, she showed us that the long-run evolution of female employment over 200 years of US history is shaped like the...
तेणु 2023 वर्षर अर्थनीति क्षेत्र में नोबेल घोषणा होता सीधा सड़क स्वीडेन स्थित जो माने नोबेल फाउंडेशन पक्ष जो बड़ी घोषणा करा जायछि ए वर्ष 2023 वर्ष लगे प्रोफेसर क्लाउडिया गोल्डिन को नोबेल पुरस्कार अर्थनीति क्षेत्र देवा स्थिर होइछि एवं वुमेन इन द लेबर मार्केट तारी उपरे आधार करी अर्थात महिला श्रमदान श्रमिक हिसाब से महिला जो भूमिका रही ताकू प्राधान्य दे एई वर्ष अर्थनीति रे नोबेल पुरस्कार घोषणा करा जाय।